all have time to speak, but strictly for goodwill messages and intervention is 5 minutes. Because this is a national meeting. It's 5 minutes. And I know the chairman or the moderator, Professor Anthony Killer, will not allow any intervention to exceed that 5 minutes, because all must be able to have their time to speak. Anyone who has a presentation will be allowed to present. This is a national meeting of the South and the North. And so that is why we especially again welcome our governor from Sokoto, Governor, distinguished Senator now, Aminu Tambuwa. A round of applause for him again. This is not a Southern meeting. This is a national meeting. So the governor is here. His Excellency Baba Jide Sanwo-Olu is here and is stepping in a while. And so we'll be taking the national anthem shortly. I hope we all have the program. Ushers, please get participant the program. Program, please. The governor of Lagos State is here. His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, you are welcome, Excellency. Please take the governor too. So now, ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, we may have to commence this national meeting. Without much ado, we'd like to welcome His Excellency the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. A round of applause for him, please. Sound, yes. May we be upstanding for the national anthem. National anthem, please. National anthem. Before we sit down, we take the national prayer, the second stanza of the national anthem on the back of our program. The national prayer. And I will lead that prayer. O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true, great lofty heights attain, to build a nation where peace and justice reign. Thank you. Amen. Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. That was the national prayer. Distinguished, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Chairman, the Governor of Lagos State is seated, the Chairman of this national dialogue is here. The chairman of this national dialogue on the constitutional future of Nigeria is His Excellency Chief Emeka Anyaoku, GCON, CFR, and chairman of the Patriots. Without much ado, we need to take the welcome address of the organizers, and to do that is Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu is going to come to the podium. Dr. Kalu Idika Kalu, a former finance minister, a in the 80s will be welcoming us. Dr. Kalu, please. A round of applause for him, please. Dr. Kalu, Ejika Kalu.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Our very distinguished chairman, Chief Emeka Anyoko. Wale says this is the coordinating table. Anybody can see from the assembly that try to set up a particular protocol would be quite a task. With all our distinguished former governors, former senators, present senators, and so on and so forth. So permit me to really cut the protocols for obvious reasons. First, I should acknowledge the presence of our chairman. He doesn't need any elaborate introduction. Chief Emeka Anyoko, who is chairman of the Patriots, succeeding Professor Nwabeze, and of course there are other distinguished holders of that position, Chief F.R.C. Williams, of blessed memory, our distinguished governor, my good friend, His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I do actually know when he crept in. We were busy discussing. There are so many friends here, governors, colleagues. I was particularly pleased to see Chief Asimota. I hadn't seen him for quite a while. He's a very prominent patriot, back to the days of even Chief Tony Anahoro and the ethnic nationalities. He is here. And of course, we have so many monarchs, so many ministers I have met under various auspices. So as I said, on my way here, the thought crossed my mind, what a time to be undertaking such a serious exercise. Looking across the hall, one cannot help but see that for the moment, maybe it's Nigerian time, called African time, you could say we have a paucity of crowd. But that does not matter. The issues are very, very serious. And those who are going to address the issues are all around or on their way. As I said, I've deliberately tried to cut the protocols. There are just far too many distinguished people here, and I had asked Wale and him to compile this, so at some point everybody will receive due recognition that is due. The first thing I want to say unmistakably, hopefully by the time we listen to the experts, by the time we have the various interventions, we should all live here very clear in our mind the inalienable right of every Nigerian to live under a constitution of their own making. This has been the spur to this occasion, and what a time for the distinguished Chief Ayo Adebanjo to just walk in, because he emphasizes this point all the time. Our great senior colleague who has been in the field in every sense of that phrase over time. Somebody had asked me a little while that he hoped he would be here, and I promised he would be here. So I'm particularly happy that Chief Ayo Adebanjo is here with us. I am not supposed to be giving a long speech, just to welcome all of you, but let me just underscore a few basic points. One, after 64 years of independence, it's a pity that so many fundamental issues are still dangling. issues of citizenship, believe it or not, all this talk about indigent populations here and there. Issues of political rights. And somebody mentioned a little earlier, this unwholesome North-South divide. After 64 years, we should all be gathered here as full-fledged Nigerians from all corners of this nation. And in that context, let me add that for a long while, I've always considered this so-called tripod. I think it's going out of fashion. The so-called tripod was not only presumptuous, but was a total understatement, given the sheer heterogeneity of the ethnic nationalities that make up our great nation. So I'm glad that that is going out of fashion. We are all going to be seated here, not as northerners or southerners, not as people from different corners, though we are proud of those corners. We are proud of our languages, diversity of our culture, as our national anthem says. But when we come to citizenship issues, political issues, we are here finally to begin the journey of putting paid to any form of constitutional structure that is not of the making of Nigerians and their due representatives. We should address the issues that continue to plague the federal, the state, and the local governments, distribution of powers, legislative lists, and so on and so forth. The issue of boundaries disputes still plague us between states, between local governments, and some of this need to be seriously trashed out with the guarantees for the observation of those boundaries. Another issue, of course, are religious and freedoms that should be thoroughly trashed out, and I'm sure our great speaker will address that issue. The issue of accountability, and I note in passing that when we were grafting the federal constitution from that of the United States, one big omission was the Federal Office of Accounting. Events now in the last administrations underscore the very importance of accountability at the various levels. We've set up all kinds of institutions and so on, CPC, EFCC, and so on. We have a chance finally to review this thoroughly as full-fledged Nigerians and create those constraints, those checks and balances that will put away all the issues that we've continued to discuss. There are issues, but I see Wale is already coming to my shoulder here. Security issues. I will end by not mentioning that. It is heart-rending, the daily dose of bloodletting that is happening all over the place. And of course, not a few will trace the cause to the inadequacies of our divisions, our institutions, and our legal system and observance of the rule of law. Well, there are a few other things I might want to say, but hopefully one will have a chance to intervene in the course of the lecture that is being given by no other than our great jurist, Professor Mike Ozekome. We had tried to corner Chief Afe Babalola, who is also quite vast, like many other experts in this field. So finally, I want to welcome you all. We are fewer than we should be, but we are large enough for the purpose. So on behalf of the Patriots and all allied national patriotic institutions, organizations, I welcome you all here. I don't see that many. The women will think I will say a word about that, but I don't know whether the fault is from Wale. Are you listening? There are not enough women. There should be enough women here. So you can say I will champion them if they want to put up a few placards on that occasion. But you are all welcome. I thank Chief Emeka Anyoko. He's been indefatigable through all the sessions. Some of us got handpicked for all kinds of reasons over this Christmas and New Year season, but at least I'm happy. Welcome you all to this great convention, and I think as the press, both print and media have welcomed it, this should be a real point of reflection for the constitutional process in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's distinguished Dr. Ala-Igbo Kalu, former Finance Minister of Nigeria. Thank you for that wonderful tone-setting welcome address. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our program is the chairman opening remarks. I'd like to welcome to the microphone the chairman of this National Constitutional Dialogue, His Excellency Chief Emeka Anyoko, GCON CFR, former Secretary General of Commonwealth of Nations and Chairman of the Patriots.
Host Governor, His Excellency Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Your Excellencies, former governors of various states of Nigeria, our most respected elder statesman, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, our keynote speaker, Professor Mike Ozekume, the representative of the Oni of Ife, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to join Dr. Ala-Igbo Kalu in welcoming you all to this national dialogue, which we've called a colloquium, organized by the Patriots as a memorial honor to the late Professor Ben Nwabueze, the recent chairman of the Patriots. The broad theme of the colloquium relates to the making of a suitable constitution for Nigeria. But first, a brief word about the Patriots. The Patriots are a group of experienced Nigerians, known to some as leaders of thought, who are committed to the advocacy of a suitable constitution and good governance in Nigeria. The group, I must stress, is non-partisan and represents the interests of all parts of the country. Professor Ben Nwabueze was the second chairman of the Patriots. He had succeeded the late Chief Rotimi Williams, the acclaimed giant of law practice in Nigeria. As is well known, Professor Ben Wabweze was a towering scholar in constitutional law. He was an undisputed authority not only of the Nigerian Constitution, but also of the constitutions of African countries, including especially Kenya, where at the request of President Arap Moi, Professor Ben Wabweze went and adapted the Kenya Constitution from that was serving a one-party state to a constitution for a multi-party governed Kenya. It is therefore very befitting that this colloquium has been organized as a tribute to the memory of Professor Ben Wabweze. I am glad that we have here in this hall many country, Nigeria, leaders of various states in Nigeria. I would like to make brief observations of what I consider incontrovertible facts that should form the background of our discussions here today. First, Nigeria is a First, Nigeria is a pluralistic country that is still struggling to become a nation. A nation with assured political stability and progressive socioeconomic development. The fact from across the world is that some pluralistic countries have succeeded in becoming nations, while other pluralistic countries have failed and disintegrated. And the lesson from this is that pluralistic countries which have succeeded in becoming nations have generally practiced true federalism with considerable powers devolved to the federating units. This fact, I must say, was recognized by the founding fathers of Nigeria, who negotiated painstakingly and agreed the Independence Constitution of 1960 extended to 1963. The second incontrovertible fact that I'd like to state is that our present 1999 Constitution, as amended, not only lacks the legitimacy that flows from a democratically made Constitution, but also has proved to be unsuitable for tackling many of the serious challenges currently confronting our country. And thirdly, It is a widely recognized fact that the crucial areas of the country have significantly deteriorated and are continuing to deteriorate. To mention just a few of such areas: security of the citizens' life and property, economic well-being of the citizens, infrastructure, including roads, thank you, and education and health facilities, social cohesion and social values, and the sense of national unity. These are areas where significant deterioration has occurred over the years. I'd like to conclude my brief remarks by saying that there has been no shortage of opinions and prescriptions of the nature and content of what should be a suitable constitution for a pluralistic country. Many commentators have expressed the view that the 1960-1963 Constitution, as well as the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference, provide inescapable guide in this respect. I hope, therefore, that this colloquium will, while reaffirming the essential ingredients of the desired Nigerian People's Constitution, will focus on the process of producing such a constitution. I believe that in this respect, we have only two options. Either we accept the 2014 National Conference as acceptable platform, or we go for a relatively inexpensive, directly elected Constituent Assembly on non-party basis for producing such widely desired constitution. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Chief Emeka Anyoko, Chairman of this very historic national dialogue on the future of Nigeria. That was a thought-provoking, profound statement made. A round of applause for him once again, please. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we now go to, before we do that, I've just been reminded that while His Excellency was speaking, very distinguished Nigerians came in, and I'm going to quickly recognize them. Our own leader is here, the leader of the Yorubas, Afenifere leader. Please join me in welcoming to this event Chief Ayo Adebanjo. the leader of Afenifere. I also want to welcome a very distinguished Omoluabi and former governor of Osun State, who came in while the program was on the way. Is no other person than our own comrade, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. I'd like to welcome you. Let me use this occasion to recognize and welcome members of the family of our deceased leader. That's Professor Ben Nwabueze SCN. In the house we have Adaize Nwabueze and Nene Nwabueze, both children of Professor Ben Nwabueze. Please stand up for recognition and take a bow. Yes. Those are children of our leader, an icon, a titan, and a Iroko in the constitutional field, Professor Benjamin Obiefule Nwabueze. Now we go on to interventions from the coordinating table. His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, is here seated. And we'd like to welcome him once again. He will be the first on our program to intervene, though we have listed, but we have to. Just a minute, please. Distinguished listeners, have just been instructed by the chairman that we call him Baba of Zek, Apaka Fikifiki of Edo land. He is a veteran on this issue. That rather than take goodwill messages or intervention from our eminent leaders here present, we should go immediately to the keynote address. And the person delivering this is no other one than our own Professor Mike Ozekome, SAN, CON, OFR, PhD, LLD, D. Lit. The Apaka Fiki of Edo land is the one to lead discussion with a keynote address. You are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veteran Che. Let me observe all protocols, but not without mentioning our great nationalist and chairman, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, GCON, CFR, the former Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, and also the Governor of Lagos State, on whose soil we are doing this. If he doesn't want us to come into Lagos State, he will just say, don't come. And I also recognize our father, Chief Ayo Adebanjo. He has been in this struggle at almost 97 years old with Chief Ike Clark. He's still in the struggle. So for him, it's a case of Aluta Continua, Victoria Asceta. I thank you all, and my Oronese representative, send my regards to Your Majesty. When Chief Emeka Anyaoku called me to present today's keynote address in honor of Professor Nwabueze, I did not hesitate, because when Professor Nwabueze died, I wrote a tribute for him, which you can easily Google and see all I said about him. I was quite close to him. Unarguably, indisputably, he is the greatest constitutional lawyer to have emerged on the soil of Africa, the entire African continent. Make no mistake about that at all. In 2011, when I was being honored with a doctorate degree honoris causa, LLD, by Caritas University, Enugu, and Professor Nwabueze was also being honored, I went to him. I said, sir, how can a Lilliputian like me be honored the same day along a giant like you? That I found it a misnomer. He said, no, my son, I've been reading you and I think I like what you are doing. You are not a Lilliputian. Continue to grow. Since that 2011, I became very close to Professor Nwabueze after reading all his books in my university and after university years. And we would argue. He would call me, he would tell Damien, his PA, he may be here now. He would say, call him at about 11:30 p.m. He would say, I read what you wrote yesterday in the papers. I don't agree with you. I would say, what are your thoughts, sir? He would say, don't worry, you will see my thoughts. I will publish them in the papers. Within 24 hours, Professor Nwabueze will publish his own thoughts, which by the time I will read, I will see that to him, I was really a Lilliputian. How he did it, I will continue to wonder, just as Professor Sage SCN was always wondering with me, how does he do it? So I think that even in his grave now, I think he must be writing. He wouldn't know that he has left this world. He will just be writing for angels. So Professor Nwabueze, sir, continue to write and educate the other world. The Constitution, sir, is the birth certificate of any nation. It is the identity card. Make no mistake about that. So when you talk about a constitution or a country, the first thing you think of is, what is his system of government? How does he run it? Is it parliamentary? Is it presidential? Is it a republican state? Is it unitary? What form of government? How do the people relate? Once you are discussing all these issues, you are thinking of the constitution of a country. And that is why it is very, very important. And let me make this point. The process, the procedure by which a constitution comes into being is not only important, but it's actually more important than the contents of the Constitution itself. That was why America, between May 4 and September 1787, decided to gather in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to have what they called a more perfect union. They already had confederates having their own constitutions, but they felt that They needed a stronger government at the center, but federative units strong enough to stand on their own, but not too strong to override the central government. That was how they met. Great American people, Alexander Hamilton, John James, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, who became the first president of America, emerging from that conference. These were the great federalists. And they decided to set for themselves a new constitution. Agreed on certain articles of faith: republicanism, presidentialism, and federalism. It was from that constitutional conference they decided to have not just a presidential system of government, but also what you call judicial review of administrative actions. They decided to have a tripartite system of government: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. A doctrine which earlier in 1748 was ably propounded by Baron de Montesquieu, a great French philosopher. They to have a Bill of Rights. And so that constitution was promulgated finally in June 1787, 10 years after they became independent. Guess what? They did not claim to know it all. The 50 delegates that attended, 39 of the delegates signed. They still subjected it to the 13th Confederate States for their approval through a referendum. A referendum is key to any constitution making. That is why the American Constitution, which is just 192 pages, about 27 amendments, 7,591 words, unlike the Nigerian Constitution, which is as large as a portfolio, still stands the test of time hundreds of years later. So the process by which a constitution comes into effect, therefore, is very, very important. Right now, the Green Chambers has set up a committee to amend the Constitution after the first four amendments. And the Senate has also set up a 43-man committee. My brother and good friend here, Aminu Tambuwa, a man who has conquered not just the legislature, but the executive. We are preventing him from coming to the judiciary. He's there. But with this, their work amounts to what we are looking for. Is it just a case of amendments to the Constitution that is our problem? Can you amend a bad document? Can you amend a fundamentally flawed document? My humble answer is that you cannot. 1 million amendments multiplied by 1 million amendments added to 1 million amendments of the present fundamentally flawed constitution cannot cure it of its original sin, like the original sin committed by Adam and Eve. What is that original sin? It is that it was imposed on you and I militarily by a military junta led by General Abdusalami Abubakar, 28 members of the Provisional Ruling Council. It was never subjected to any referendum of the people. And guess what? The present constitution was attached as a mere schedule. Can you believe that? To decree number 24 of 1999. So the constitution you are using is a mere schedule attached to a decree. So how can you amend it? How do you cleanse this of that leprous pedigree? How? I will tell you. Like Naaman the leper that dipped himself into River Jordan 7 times to become cleansed of his leprosy. Nigerians must own their own constitution through a popular referendum of the people, like was done to the Midwest Constitution on the 10th of August 1963 when it separated from Western region. Without that, we will just be on a journey to no destination. Make no mistake about that. So all these problems you see, insecurity, mutual distrust, religious tolerance, civilians attacking army therefore retaliating with mightier force, burning down a whole village, a whole city. Everybody is saying Buhari was prebendalistic, cronyistic, sectionalistic, that the President Tinubu is also following same, be prebendalistic, chronistic, sectionalistic. All these are mere symptoms of a larger ailment, which is that we are operating a system we have not agreed to operate. When Miss Flora Louisa Shaw on 8th January 1897 was giving Nigeria her name after the area around the Niger area, we were already existing as different nationalities within our domains. The Hausa city-states, the Igbo city-states, the Kanem Borno Empire, the Oyo Empire, the Ife Empire, the Benin Kingdom. The people had their system of government and governance. So, to cobble together such a people without giving them a say, as Lord Lugard did on the 1st of January 1914, when he brought together the northern and southern protectorates to found Nigeria and the Lagos colony. Forget that agreement was to last for 100 years, which expired on the 1st of January 2014. Can we not sit down to renegotiate our nationhood? We can believe in ourselves. That is the national question. That is why no one believes in Nigeria. Rather, Nigerians believe in their unions. Drive across on a Saturday or Sunday, you will see union, Bra Union, Ijo Union, Esako Union, Birom Association, TV, Diaspora Union. The reason is that people believe more in their home states than a country called Nigeria. When you want me to fill a form And after asking me for my name, and you further ask about my religion, then you ask about where I come from and the language I speak, you are already profiling me. Not as a Nigerian, but as someone who comes from that enclave. And guess what? What you are going to get will be what they see there. So when I hear the Yorubas, some of them are still complaining today that they are being marginalized. I say, The Northerners, Hausa, Fulanis are complaining of marginalization right now. The Igbos, their case is well known, have always been on at the receiving end, being marginalized. Then I ask, what of myself, a minority, being a minority, from a tiny village called Ijukwe near Agenibode in Esako, East Local Government Area? What do you want me to say? Because Abiola said the bigger the head, the bigger the headache. So my headache is bigger. So we are therefore going to look at some of the issues now, how we can solve this problem, which we have highlighted, so that we can move forward. Now, Professor Nwaboze gave us a very beautiful treatise as to how we can bring about a people's constitution. In his seminal paper, Legal Authority for the Convening and Holding of a National Conference and for the Making of a People's Constitution, the learned professor said that the present National Assembly is already in place. You are happy because I say you are already, because your fears have always been that in trying to bring about a people's constitution, we are going to sideline the National Assembly. It is not possible. It is a reality. Because the National Assembly itself came into being. Elections were held in 1999, even before the 1999 Constitution. So the elections were held with the Constitution. So the emergence of the National Assembly, therefore, was based on the will of the people, what we call salus populi suprema lex. The will of the people is supreme. So Professor Nwaboze therefore theorized that because the National Assembly is in place, they have the power to convene and conduct a national conference. And that what they should do is that they should look at their powers beyond the power to alter the Constitution in sections 8 and 9 and go to section 315, which makes the present Constitution as an existing law being a document attached as a schedule to Decree number 24. And that the National Assembly should yank off the Constitution from that schedule under using section 1, subsection 1, and then simultaneously replace it with a brand new Constitution, doing away with the schedule, with the military dictatorship aura. He has example of the British Order in Council, which under section 2 had made the 1963 independent constitution a schedule. But under the 1963 Republican Constitution, the British government used the British Order in Council, yanked it off and replaced it, and we therefore had the 1963 Republican Constitution. One of the best, arguably the best constitutions we have ever had in this country. Better than the 2022 Clifford Constitution,
1922 Clifford Constitution, 1946 Arthur Constitution, 1951 Macpherson Constitution, 1954 Little Constitution. That 1963 Constitution, to me, if you look at it, which brought about fiscal federalism for each state to grow, each region to grow according to its might. Western region, Eastern region, Northern region is where we have to think of going back to. That was why the late sage Obafemi Awolowo, who controlled the mono product of Western region, cocoa product, could impact heavily on his people, giving them free education at all levels. University of Ife, I'm an alumni of that university. You know there are 2 universities in Nigeria, sirs. University of Ife and others. Is the brainchild of Awolowo. The Cocoa House in Ibadan, still the tallest building in Ibadan till today. Liberty Stadium. The first television station in Africa, Western Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation, because he had access to his funds. There was no federal government. He was just paying 20% royalty to the federal government at the center. Then 30% was shared by all the regions, and then 50% for their region. The Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, was able to use the hide and skin, cotton, products of Northern region to build the Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, NNDC, the Amdala Hotel, the Yankari Game Reserve, the Arewa group of companies. They are still there till today. You all see them. Dr. Akanu Ibiam, to Michael Okpara, using the mono product of palm oil in the East, was able to develop Eastern region. The monuments are there: presidential hotels, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Transamadi Estate, the cattle ranch Obubro, the stadium, University of Nigeria Nsukka, because he had access to his funds. What of Midwest region, which was created through the help of people like Dr. Dennis Osadebe, Oba Akenzwa II, Kesinti Momo, Chief Anthony Nahoro, Jereti Mariri Oketiebo, Umimiejo. They used their timber and plywood and rubber to develop all they wanted: the Ugeli glass factory, the Okbila cement factory, the University of Benin. So what has changed? That people who produce a product, you are saying they should be grateful for being given 30% of the product. Everybody goes to Abuja to go and share the national cake every month, using commissioners for finance. But no one cares about how that national cake is baked. Is that how we are going to survive as a country? Using 80 to 85% for recurrent expenditure, no capital expenditure? Is that how we are going to grow? So Professor Nwabueze got it. But my only quarrel with Professor Nwabueze, and I had told him when we discussed this matter, that yanking off the Constitution from the schedule using Section 11 has not cured it of the illegitimacy we are talking about, nor made it autochthonous. Without a referendum, you say, young man, I think I see what you are saying. That is one procedure to go forward to have a new constitution. National Assembly, replace the new constitution, yank it off under Section 11 of that decree, replace it with the new constitution, and we move on. But my own argument is that it has not made it the people's constitution. Then, we look at another example of national conferences where matters like this were hotly debated, particularly in the Francophone states, where they debated all this to manage conflicts and foster political, social, and economic well-being and welfare. 1990, President Matthew Kereko, Republic of Benin. Congo Brazzaville, 1991 National Conference, Denis Sassou Nguesso. Mali, President Ibrahim Traoré, 1991. Togo, 1990, President Nasigbe Eyadema. Democratic Republic of Congo, of President Mobutu Sese Seko, 1991 to 1992. Then let us now look at procedure through the National Assembly. My take on this is that the National Assembly has a big role to play in bringing about a people's constitution. What are the ingredients they will use to cook this people's soup? I have talked about the 1963 Republican Constitution. The beautiful provisions are there. They are not dead. Then in 2014, sirs, many of us here, including Baba, Chief Olabode George, we were all at the National Conference, including Dr. Idi Kakalu, Chief Emeka Anyaku, Dr. General Ike Nwachukwu, our own Papa Obongata. We all came together. The delegates were thrown up by different methods. Listen, 2014 National Conference qualifies as a constituent assembly of the people. You do not require to waste further funds and energy looking for others. The reason is that the 492 members were thrown up by the people themselves, and you can throw up people through election and selection. For example, the people that came from Ogun State, I do not know how they emerged, but I am sure that the governor there certainly knew how their people emerged to represent them at that conference. Local governments were represented, states were represented, elder statesmen and women, market men and women, the civil society, students were even there. The disabled, they were there. Military, police personnel were there. The diplomatic corps were there. Federal government itself was represented. Traditional rulers. It was a potpourri. In fact, for the first 2 weeks, the issue that we were debating was issue of representation. Where we were represented, we fought and fought and fought. All agreed, sirs, you are all here. We all agreed that the representation was good and representative enough of our nation, because ethnic nationalities were represented. Afenifere, the Middle Belt people, Ohanese, they were there. Arewa. So every segment, professional groups, private and public sectors, we were all there. I, for example, was thrown up by my local government through the people and traditional rulers at Auchi Polytechnic. But by the time we got to Abuja, my name had been removed by powers that be. And when the then president, Ebele Jonathan Goodluck, heard of it, he said, no, why? This young man has something to contribute. So they had to put my name. They attached it as an addendum. Can you all remember? So most of you, all of you were at that national conference. They gave me the nickname addendum. So I became an addendum. In other words, so that 2014 National Conference qualifies as a Constituent Assembly or Constitutional Conference of the People. The over 600 recommendations they made, some of them were for mere executive implementation, some were constitutional, and I was lucky to be elected or appointed by the Committee on Judiciary and Human Rights to head the subcommittee of how to bring about a new constitution. And our recommendations are there. Why are we afraid to look at them? So my take on this, therefore, is that the National Assembly stake comes in now, sir. Just promulgate a law setting up what I call a National Referendum Commission, NRC, National Referendum Commission. That commission define its powers. Don't put a no-go area like Ibrahim Babangida once did. Let them get to work. The ultimate being to aggregate together the beautiful decisions of the 2014 National Conference, the beautiful provisions of the 1963 Republican Constitution, and the beautiful work you are currently doing in your own amendment based on your memorandum that you have. Let the National Referendum Commission look at all of them and work on them to give Nigeria a constitution. And what to do within 6 months. This law we are talking about, sir, you can do first reading, second reading, third reading. We have seen you do it on some occasions, first reading, second reading, third reading, on an urgent matter. The entire of this process that can take Nigeria forward can be finished and concluded, sir, in 6 months. I can help to drive it. 6 months. We will have a new dawn for this country. And then what happens thereafter? Simple. Then look at the collated document in the form of a constitution using section 5 of the constitution, which is executive powers after a referendum of the people, ayes or nays. That's what a referendum means. Ayes or nays. Do we still agree to continue with our presidential system of government, which is energy sapping and draining? Nay. If nay, what? Is it parliamentary system of government? Yes. And then the National Assembly will get that clear. There will be no problem about that. So, can this be possible? Yes, sir. As a lawyer and historian, Iraq did it, constitutional referendum, on the 15th of October 2005. Kenya did it on, we call it their own official referendum, on the 4th of April 2010. Iran did it through their constitutional referendum on the 3rd of December 1979, after the Ayatollah Khomeini regime. Bangladesh did it through a constitutional referendum on the 15th of September 1991. The people voted 83.6% to go their own way. Morocco did it on the 1st of July 2011. Egypt did it on the 15th and 14th of December 2012. Eritrea did it through a constitutional commission in 1994. I've already given you the American example of 1787 between May 14 and September 17. when they had their constitution, which is a living document. So we can count, sirs, en masse. Many countries that have done this. Russia, Pakistan, UK. Remember the Brexit, when Britain decided to leave the European Union on the 23rd of June 2016. Remember Chile. Remember Denmark, Romania, Spain. All of them, Singapore, Taiwan, Norway, Greece, Hong Kong, Mexico, Italy. All of them at one time or the other, including Australia, at one time or the other, they subjected their constitutions to the people's referendum. And then, because of that, the constitutions became autochthonous, homegrown, indigenous, respectable, acceptable, legitimate, and believable by the people. All the qualities of which the present 1999 constitution clearly lacks, having been militarily imposed. What are those things we expect in this new constitutional dispensation? Very quickly, sir, so that I don't take much time, sir. Thank you, Chair. I humbly prefer solutions as follows. We need a 6-zonal federal structure, sir. 6-zonal federal structure. The 6-zonal federal structure, because people are always jealously guarding their present domain. They don't want their states to go. Leave states as federated units, no problem. But have 6-zonal structure, which are directly overseeing the states. Each of these, there will still be a central federal constitution. Then the zonal will have their own constitutions. Each state will be permitted to operate and own its own police force and court systems up to the Supreme Court of a state, as you have it in America. In America, every state has its own Supreme Court. It is only critical constitutional matters that go to the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Each state, local government, which they call county council, even institutions, tertiary institutions, they have their own police force. Allow governors to maintain their own police and fund them. This question of fear that, oh, they will misuse it. Is the federal government not misusing the police force? Create Supreme Courts for the sub-regional groups to handle matters that come from the 36 states. Just as you have the Western Region, can you remember Western Region Court of Appeal? We used to have it. Cases came from the Western Region, finally to the Western Region Court of Appeal. Before, in those days, you talk about the Privy Council and Supreme Court in Lagos. Why should a person stole a piece of fish in a small village in Buguma or Kauranamoda have his case finally ending up at the Supreme Court in Abuja? It's so meaningless and wasteful. I suggest here that states should be granted full control over their resources and pay 30% to the central government at the center to be able to carry out its functions, which I will itemize. Vulnerable groups and gender must be given equality in our national affairs, particularly women. I am here advocating that the National Assembly is too unwieldy. 109 senators, 360 members of the House of Representatives. They drain the scarce resources of the country. when Nigi speaks, his original offense or sin like Adam and Eve is, why did you say it? What is the solution? The present constitution, they actually say, if you sit for 6 months in a year, you have already passed. So either you abolish one of the twin bicameral legislature, either you abolish the green chamber or the red chamber, or allow them to sit on part-time basis, so that when you sit, they day. When you don't get it, you will see people who transmute easily from governors to senators. Some of them will decide to better go into farming, which is more profitable. How much am I going to be receiving for honorarium by sitting? I'm running up. Thank you. So we should have it that way. There should be power rotation constitutionalized between the North and the South. We should create special constitutional and anti-corruption courts so as to revamp our decaying electoral process. We must enable funding of National Assembly members, those that will remain, by constituent states, not from the central government, which will now have fewer things to do. And what will they be doing? Finance, taxation, external affairs, internal defense, military operations. Very few items. What the government about marriage, what you call you go to the marriage registry to go and wed, and it's under the Marriage Act. So the federal government is guiding your relationship with your wife. What is your business? What is the federal government's business with what they call unitary schools, from these secondary schools, which should even be the business of local government areas? So I think we are missing it entirely. And finally, sir, as I end this, we have to know that the will of the people is supreme. Even section 14 of the present constitution says that. Say government derives its power and authority from the people. The tail cannot wag the dog. It is the dog that wags the tail. So we must respect the human rights of the people, the dignity. Our governments must provide for the people. The welfare and security of the people is the primary function of government, section 14. A government that cannot secure its citizens or give them food is not a government. Above all, in doing this constitution, remember the Nigerian people. Subject whatever this National Referendum Commission, NRC, collates together to a referendum of the Nigerian people. And then we can have a brand new constitution and a new beginning. God bless you all.
A round of upstanding ovation, please, for the keynote speaker. He has done great justice to this issue, and I know taking it forward, our discussant, very capable discussant, are set to further consolidate the presentation. This, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there will be interventions, and the moderators are in the house. I'd like to introduce to you first and foremost, before we go on to interventions of discussant and speakers, the presence in our midst of the wife of the man which we are gathered here to honor, Professor Ben Nwabueze, Mrs. Nwabueze. You are welcome, madam. We also have in the house the Secretary to the State Government of Lagos State, no other person than an erudite scholar herself, Lady Abimbola Salu Nderi. A round of applause, please. The SSG of Lagos State. She's a lawyer too, a veteran one for that matter. Let me also recognize the North. I call him the North. He's our comrade. He's been with us since the days of Chief Tony and now in Ponako. He's no other person, young but vibrant. Alhaji Shetima Yerima, President Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, all the way from Kaduna. You are welcome. Yes, like I said, the moderators are Professor Anthony Kila and Obongwana Barbara Etin James. They are the one to moderate for us at the appointed time. They will come. My duty is to introduce, announce the discussant. I know that Obongata will be intervening at some point, but we want to first take the discussant. We take two of them, then we come to his intervention. I'd like to quickly, for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, we'd like to take an erudite scholar and lawyer, a veteran on this issue. At some point during the military days, the counsel to General Obasanjo is no other person than our own Dr. Tunji Abayomi to come to the microphone. Tunji Abayomi to speak to the issue in 5 minutes. I will come. It's not to discuss it.
I'd like to pay my regards, hello sir, to the many distinguished leaders of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that are gathered together, particularly, sir, the chairman of this occasion, Chief Anyoku. I think the nation is actually very lucky in the sense that when you look at the eminence and the fecundity of citizens in the world, I believe Nigeria stands up. That is why our children are making waves in every country of the world. The issue of the Constitution, I have interacted with Professor Nwabueze. I think my first outing with him was 1996, when I accompanied him to the burial of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in the East. And since that time, we have been speaking about the Constitution. So I'm going to, my discussion, I have a paper, I have given the paper, but I'm not going to talk about the paper, I will talk from my head. I'm going to talk, it's going to be an interaction. And I'm going to go by questions. The first question is, what really is wrong with the Constitution? If you look at the content of the Constitution, it looks very elite, it looks beautiful. But there's a problem. I was in the villa one morning, I think Obi Ozekwezili was there too, and Bruce. During President Obasanjo's regime, and we were discussing the Constitution, and I said, the 1990 Constitution is an imposition. And President turned that and said, 1979 Constitution is the best Constitution we had, and so on and so on. He went on and on and on.
And I turned and I said to him, 1979 Constitution, it is nothing but a fruit of a poisonous tree. That's what I said. And he banged the door and he said, don't allow that madman to come to this villa anymore. So why is the Constitution, what's the problem? The problem is there are two. The first thing is when the military gave itself legislative powers, it gave itself the power to make law, not the power to make constitution. If we look at our constitution, it says, we the people hereby, the military itself says that the validity of the constitution is if it comes from the people. That's said, we the people, although it didn't come from the people. That's the first problem. The second problem is illegal. I will give you a simple example, sir. Assuming we have a cocoa farm. One of us is a soldier. One of us is a diplomat chairman. One is a teacher, one is a nurse, and one is a lawyer. And we want to farm. The question is, how do we manage it? Look at Nigeria as that cocoa farm. Will it not make sense for us to sit around the table in what Leopold Senghor calls a universal banquet to agree on how that cocoa farm will be managed? In the case of Nigeria, we have a situation where soldiers decided that this is the way you will manage that cocoa farm. It is only by this way you can manage it. That's them, because the action, intention, desire, excellencies of the peoples of Nigeria was not there. Now, Nigeria is a unique nation. There is few nations like Nigeria in the sense that the various nationalities are divinely placed in special geographical locations. Yorubas in the southwest, Igbos in the southeast, Kanuri in the northeast, Fulanis and so on and so forth. The question is, if we want to build a united nation of Nigeria, how do you do it? The only sense to do it is to sit around the table and agree on the terms of that United Nations of Nigeria. That is the only way you can get peace, order, and good government. That is the problem of our constitution. A military government just decided, look at what he said, now this shall be the constitution for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In other words, it is only in Nigeria, in the entire world, that has a decree as its constitution. That is the problem of the constitution. Now, how do we now bring about a constitution of the and this is what the chairman said, that we know that the constitution has a problem. It carries death wound on its face. But how do we now get a constitution? How do we make it a people's constitution? In my view, there's only one way. Only one way. I've spoken about this since 1996. You go into the internet again and again. There's only one way. How? What way? The first thing we must recognize is that, for example, Britain has a government, but it has no written constitution. So what legitimizes the British government? It's very simple. The votes of the people. So, how then do we move? It's very simple. Ozakome has already told us, and this is true, that all the governments of federation came into existence before the 1999 Constitution. We came into existence 12 midnight of May 29, 1999. In other words, it wasn't even the Constitution that gave us government. Contrary to the norms. Like I said here, there are some principles we must recognize. First, it is not a government that gives a nation a constitution. Rather, it is a constitution that gives a nation a government. Government itself is suffering the consequences of a constitution. I repeat, it is not a government of a nation that gives a nation a constitution. It is a constitution that gives a nation a government. In our case, it was a government, it was a constitution. Number two, it is never the content of a constitution that validates or legitimizes a constitution. It is always the procedure adopted in making a constitution that legitimizes it. Ozekome is an SAN. One single lawyer can write the best constitution in the world. It is unconstitutional. When the people on the other hand, in that cocoa tree, they gather together, they write the worst constitution. It is constitutional. That's why Nkrumah said the people have a right to govern or misgovern themselves through their constitution. They can misgovern themselves, but it is legitimate if they write the worst constitution. That's the truth. The constitutionalist thought the constitution is not law. Rather, it is an agreement by the people to constitute government authority to which they delegate their collective powers. That is also why a constitution cannot be made in exercise of legislative power. In my book, Constitutional Powers and Duties of the President, which was used by President Obasanjo at page 14, I have set out 10 major differences between a law and a constitution. For example, a constitution is made by the people as an agreement. A law is made by the legislative. A constitution is presumed to go before a government, whereas legislation is the consequence of a government and so on. If you want to read, you can look at my book. Now, the peculiarity of Nigeria is such that the only way by which we can get it right is to bring the constitution to the people. Now, do it. This is how we do it. The distinguished senator is here. I want you to listen very carefully. Because the National Assembly is legitimized constitution. Because you came into existence before the Constitution, you were legitimized by the votes of the people, just as the government of Britain is legitimized by the votes of the people. But you are legitimized by the votes to make for Nigerians law. So now, what do? Because the people voted for you and they delegated their powers to you to make law, you cannot make a law for the people to give to themselves a constitution. It is your power to do that because of the delegated power the people gave to you by their votes, just like in Britain. You cannot pass a law to give to themselves a constitution, and you can also set the perimeters. In the case of Nigeria, we have had many constitutions. You can, for example, say from each local government, 3 people will come, howsoever, whatsoever. It is your power to do so, because you already possess the delegated power of our people given to you by their votes. Not by that constitution that didn't create you. That constitution, even in the document, says it has created all governments before the constitution came into existence. So you now pass that law to give the people, to enable the people to give themselves a constitution. What will be content of that law? You debate it. There's nothing special about it, and it's a simple process. Now, once you do that, you pass it to the people, to the various states, and they adopt it, and the procedure begins. That is the only way by which we can have a legitimate constitution. I will now come to a final issue, and that is the issue of amendment. The 8th Assembly, National Assembly, spent 1 billion Nigerian naira. 1 billion naira for amendment I shouldn't have spent 1,000 kobo. I want you to listen to me. The tragedy of Nigeria. If you look at even the constitution, it did not even say anything about going around, calling mechanics, giving them bonds and all of this nonsense because they said they want to amend the constitution. It is purely the act of the National Assembly. But now they go around, and after that they now pass purportedly an amended constitution and give it to the president, which is very unconstitutional. You cannot send an amendment to the constitution to the president for his assent. What if he refuses to assent? What happens? What happens? It is unconstitutional. If you now you have to send it, and I am aware of the case of Olis Agbakoba against Attorney General of the Federation. The reason why the judge you send it to the president is because the judge is essentially saying the constitution is not a constitution, it's a mere law. And because it is a law, you have to send it to the president for his assent. It's after all Decree 24 of 1999. You don't need all of those amendments. Forget about them. They are useless. Already we have had, about in 2010 we have 5 alterations, 2017 another alteration, 18 another alteration, and they have billions and billions and billions and billions wasted on an exercise in futility. Please, sir, all you need to do is very simple. I summarize. Pass a simple law to enable the peoples, because we are United Nations of Nigeria, United Nations of Nigeria, to enable our people to sit around the table, to agree. That has never happened. What happened in Lancaster is like a writ of summons. The military is an imposition. Now, in honor of Professor Nwabueze, let us now have a people's constitution facilitated and brought about by the power, by the delegated power given to the National Assembly. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Tunji Abayomi. I told you all that he's a veteran on this issue. He has told us that what we've been doing is a journey to nowhere. And we started all this process since 1999, but it's unfortunate there are people blocking the production of a people's constitution. I have the instruction, order of Mr. Chairman to bring to the microphone immediately a former governor in the South, former chairman of the Governors Forum, Obong, Victor Atta. A round of applause for him, please. Another 5 minutes. It's going to take another 5 minutes. Thank you, Your Excellency. You're welcome.
Thank you, the Chairman. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Governor. Thank you, Elder Statesman, Chief Adebanjo, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I came with a written paper so that I will not exceed the time given to me. But before I read it, let me try and read something that Professor Nwabueze sent to me. Oh, I'm trying to read something that Professor Nwabueze sent to me from his sick bed. That was my last communication with him. Anyway, he sent it to me after my interview on Arise. And he said, I agree with your total points of view. You have a full grasp of what is going on in Nigeria. I had to sit up in my sick bed to listen to you. Thank you very much. So it's on that basis that I decided that I will quote him extensively. Another reason that I wrote it is because I can't remember all the things that are here because they are quotations. So let me start with the first quotation. In August 2013, the then president of Nigerian Bar Association, Okewale, had this to say about our constitution. The constitution as it currently operates does not reflect the people's yearnings and aspirations. Ordinary amendments to its provisions may not necessarily, therefore, cure the fundamental flaws in it. There is, therefore, a dire need for a people-oriented constitution which will be subjected to a national referendum and will be self-enforcing. In other words, what is required is not an amendment to the current constitution, but a completely new constitution to be made by the people. Professor Benwa Boyce, the man in whose honor we are gathered here today, collaborated this position in a Vanguard newspaper. The title of that interview was "The Mistakes Rotimi Williams and I Made About Nigeria's Constitution." That interview was given in 2013, and he said, "Quite frankly, there are many flaws and many errors in the content of the Constitution. So many errors, and I, as a person, was partly responsible because I was a member of the Constitution Drafting Committee set up by the military government in 1978. I was not only a member, but chairman of one of the subcommittees that produced Chapter 2, the fundamental objectives, and one of the cardinal flaws of the Constitution is the concentration of powers in the center." Continue quotation. "That is why I accept that I am partly responsible for that, because at the time, late Chief Rotimi Williams, a close friend of mine, and nearly everybody in the Constitution Drafting Committee were so overwhelmed with this feeling, this patriotic feeling that we needed unity, and the most effective way to achieve unity of the country is by having a very strong central government. Because of the patriotism in us, and we wanted to unite Nigeria, we feel we can achieve unity by having a strong central government. Then, what did we do to achieve the misguided objective?" Please note here that Chief Professor Benwa Boyce himself admitted that this was a misguided objective. We took away 50% of the items on the current list and gave it to the center. We felt by doing this, we are establishing unity. We did not stop at this. We looked at the residual matters. These are matters exclusive to the states. We took a large part of it, more than 30%, in fact, close to 50%. We took it away from the states and gave it to the center, and the result is the almighty federal government. But what we discovered was that instead of producing unity, we produced disunity because of the intensity of the struggle to control the center. The intensity is so much, and it is not just in the political power that was concentrated at the center. Much of the money also went to the center. And so by action, we destroyed what is called true federalism. So when people struggle and agitate for true federalism, for fiscal federalism, we know what they are talking about, and they are right, and must be changed until it is changed. We might not achieve true federalism because the basis of which we did it has proved to be misguided. The unity we thought we will achieve was not achieved, and what we achieved was more disunity than unity because of the struggle. Now, from this it becomes crystal clear from the above that the underpinning principle that guided the drafting of our current constitution has turned out to have been misguided. Instead of unity, we have disunity. And in place of true federalism, we have a dictatorial unitary system. The task before us as patriots and the compatriots is how do we correct this anomaly. Recently, it was reported that the House of Representatives has passed for first reading a bill seeking to transform the presidential system of government to a parliamentary system. At the same time, the Senate has set up for a 3-member Constitutional Review Committee. Now, the National Assembly is making an urgent call for memoranda on Constitutional Review. My question is this the way to go? This is what Professor Nwabose had to say on this matter. Another quote. The arguments from the National Assembly are again misplaced. They are representatives of the people who are elected members, elected by the people, but what is their mandate? There is a clear difference and distinction between the National Assembly and the Constituent Assembly or National Conference. The National Assembly are elected and given the mandate to govern according to the Constitution. The Constitutional Assembly, the National Assembly, is an assembly of just one purpose, the purpose of making a constitution. The people are the constituent power. The constituent power in any country is in the people, and as a sovereign people, the National Assembly is not sovereign. The people are sovereign to exercise of the constituent power and the sovereignty to deliberately make a constitution for themselves. Now, that goes along with what the learned lawyer said a few minutes ago. So, because for me, what this means is that what we need is not the National Assembly to make amendments to the Constitution, but we need a Constituent Assembly to make a Constitution by the people, for the people. And that goes along with what our keynote speaker said. Perhaps we need to look at this NRC, not Referendum Committee. That same thing with what the lawyer said here. We need the National Assembly to pass a law, because they are holding the sovereignty of the people. They must pass a law. This is the reason why Buhari threw away the Jonathan thing. He said, oh, that was a Jonathan, because it was not backed by law. You need to pass us a law to say that the people have the right to make a constitution for themselves, and then the Constitutional Assembly that makes such, and the only thing will be subjected to will be a referendum throughout the country. So I plead that this assembly should ignore this call for a memorandum for constitutional amendment. It is totally unnecessary and a complete waste of time. This assembly should rise as the voice of elders and learned people and people who are patriotic and concerned with the future of Nigeria to say to the National Assembly, you are wrong. What we need from you is a simple law to say that the people have a right to make a constitution for themselves, and then we will look at how to make a constitution for themselves. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Round of applause, please, for Bon Victor Atta. Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, we may have to pause a bit to take a very vital goodwill intervention. At this point, the Governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has a very crucial, important state function. And the chairman has directed that we will have to take his goodwill intervention at this point and then come back to our speakers and our discussant. So I have the real privilege to bring to the microphone. Sound, please, sound. Engineer, please. We can't take the governor's way. We have to wait. Engineer, are you set? Thank you very much. So I have the real privilege and honor to bring to the podium His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. A round of applause, please. Oh, excellent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, all our respected elders on the high table, the guest speaker, important, eminent Nigerians that are here gathered, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. So there is no better state assignment than being in a gathering of leaders, opinion holders, and people that have walked this place far longer than we humbly are doing it now. So there is no other state assignment than being here to listen as a practitioner in this government now and be able to take this forward. So, Mr. Chairman, after my very small remark, I will still sit down and still be able to take other notes to take this forward. And for me, this is the real essence of governance. I'm not a lawyer. I have absolutely no idea into the depth of the conversation here today. But I stand here as a simple citizen, a citizen that has a responsibility and has that constitution, however faulty it is, for me to ensure that I provide a sustainability or a life of sustainability for my people. And so the question I ask myself is, if we've been doing this same thing over and over again, since 1979, since 1999, and we have not gotten the change that we desire, what is wrong with us? Let's get it practical. Let's remove the gloss and let's be able to spare and deal with this. Conversations like this, how do we take it forward? You cannot bring eminent Nigerians, people that have done better part of their time serving this country, have a discussion, a conversation, and you cannot take it forward to become something that we can live with, that we can, take forward and make sure that we have a concrete solution. Then we're wasting our time. And that's why when we rise from this place, whatever are the communique or whatever are the resolutions, the question will be, how do we take it forward? How must the Patriots, which you, sir, lead, have an opportunity to let the heirs and the people that will make those changes make it happen? It's not only Senator Tamboa today, with all due respect. It is to be able, given the number of people that are here, take this conversation and make it very, very effective. I have seen that speakers on to speakers have talked about the fact that it's not the National Assembly that will make those amendments. And it makes a lot of logical sense. It is for the National Assembly to set up, to constitute a law, a simple law, where the people will come together and make those amendments for themselves. And so we need to be able to be clear. It's not big grammar. It is something very simple and which we can take forward. I stand here as a leader of a larger state, and if it is a voice to use me as an advocate to take that forward in the National Assembly, then it becomes a force for us to take it forward. How well do we see the anomalies that we have in our country? Why would we have a federal agency come to control the water in front of Uzumbambadiwe? Why would we have a federal agency in 1,000 kilometers away to come and see the need of my people right on Uzumbambadiwe here? Those are some of the things that we will need to be able to tell forward and say that indeed we need to have a true federating state and be able to amend this constitution. I have seen, and I don't know what is wrong at the federal, and I don't know if I'll get there, but I don't know what is wrong at the federal, because you will see state officials who were fighting the same cause as state officials. The moment they get to federal, they do a 360 and begin to fight against the same thing that they were fighting at the states. Several, and I'm wondering, what is going on? What has happened? You were on this role at the state level. Now you're at federal. For you to continue to pursue it, you do a 360 and you are fighting a law that you kept in your... Sir, these are the issues. And I don't know what exactly is. And it's because, indeed, we've said it, it's large and it's big, and there's something about the federal that just sucks everybody. We need to be able to unravel this. We need to be able to be bold, be audacious, be forward-thinking, and take this thing. This is our country. We have no other one. And we've all discussed and have this conversation. Please, I am a willing convert. Whatever it is that we need to do, there are so many excellency, serving an ex here. And let us be able to make the change we desire. And let us be able to make the change that we desire, and let the soul of Professor Ben Nwabweze rest in peace, because this was something that he fought for over 60 years of his life. And we're still here talking about it. We have the opportunity to make those changes now. And I stand here to say to you that we're willing to work with you to make those changes. Thank you very much, and I take my seat.
Hello? Please, can we rise and give a standing ovation to His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu for that commitment. It's a great commitment that is ready to drive this. It's a commitment given today, Monday 18th March 2024, and we'll hold him by that. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you, Your Excellency, for that commitment. That's a great one to move this country for once and for all since 1914. It is really sad. We know the truth, but it can't set us free. It's really troubling. But I won't go into any sermon now because the chairman said we must be very moderate here. I'd like to quickly call to the podium. We go to the Senate, right to the Senate. We are going to that Senate now. The former governor of Sokoto, we are also going to the north. He is wearing two caps here. It's no other person than our own right honorable and a former speaker, a current senator, and a former governor of Sokoto State from north. Our own friend and comrade, right honorable Aminu Tambua. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, my good friend Wale Veteran Chair, the chairman of this very important platform and former Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, the leaders here present. I will use Pa Adebanjo as the contact point. The guest speaker, my good friend Mike Ezekome, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, very many eminent leaders here present, families and members of the family, rather, of our late leader, Professor Ben Nwabueze, that are here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. I will begin by thanking the organizers of this event in honor of this great Nigerian, a legendary legal luminary who really gave in his best, particularly in the evolution of not only legal profession, but particularly the Constitution of Nigeria and many other African countries. And to say that we have indeed lost a leader at a time when our country is really in need of that reservoir of wisdom that is had. But the beauty of it is that this man didn't go away with all of his thoughts. He put so many of them out there. He wrote so many books, so many seminars, and whatever possibly we are looking for, even in this conversation, has been provided for in one way or the other by Professor Ben Nwabueze. So it is right for us to pay our tribute to him and to thank God Almighty for providing him and giving Nigeria such a personality. May his soul rest in peace. Mr. Chairman, I am sure I was not invited to come here as someone who is just there in the Senate. My colleague also, Senator Benga Daniel, is right seated, so I'm not alone. At some point in time, I was beginning to feel whether all of this room is coming on my head, but whenever I look across and I see him, I say, okay, at least I am not alone. I, as said by the guest speaker, have been in the National Assembly since 2003. I participated in several attempts to amend the Constitution. Of course, some succeeded, some failed. And deriving from the conversation here today, I must admit that I have been enriched, particularly on the way forward, the pathway because what we are in now is a conundrum. If you say the Constitution lacks legitimacy and it is beyond repairs, you cannot amend it, and the Constitution is saying, look, the only way you can amend the Constitution, is going through this pathway, then you are actually in a conundrum. But conversations, platforms such as this are providing some ways of light into how to navigate our way out of this conundrum. And I must admit that what my brother said here, and ably supported by Dr. Abayemi, is making some sense to me, not only as a member of parliament, not only, as he said, former governor, but also as a member of legal profession and a life bencher for that matter, that we can promulgate or enact a law now. In any case, we did it when we had doctrine of necessity. When the situation of Yar'Adua got to where it got to, the 7th National Assembly, the 6th, came up with the doctrine of necessity, and that was how the National Assembly bailed the cat. So we can as well resort to yet another doctrine of necessity, if it is so prescribed or described, to come up with this legislation that will enable the commencement of the process of us having a constitution for we, the people of Nigeria. And let me support my brother, the governor of Lagos. We are there with Governor Benga Daniel. We will provide our offices to collaborate with this, the Patriots and all well-meaning Nigerians to move and promote that bill that will now establish the Referendum Commission for us to have and make a pathway. I think with this I can go and sit down and listen to the rest of presentations, and then at the end of the day we'll compare notes and see what we have to do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Great one. I trust him. I have always trusted you. Another standing ovation, please, for Governor Tambua. Thank you for the commitment coming from the Senate of Nigeria in conjunction, collaboration with Governor Otumba Benga Daniel. We thank you very much. Now, quickly, I've been ordered by the chairman to take Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi now, and then take Elder Solomon as senator after him, because he's the elder in the house. So I quickly want to bring to the microphone a distinguished Nigerian former governor of Rivers State, very humble personality, but a fighter. Former minister, Governor Rotimi, former chairman of the Governors Forum, former Speaker, House of Assembly, Rivers State, Governor Rotimi Amechi. A round of applause for him, please.
Mr. Chairman and distinguished elders, I won't take more than 3 minutes. I will make no contribution, just one question. We have had these conferences over and over. Is it a lie? In fact, you called him a veteran. So many veterans. These conferences produce a South-South president. Each ethnic group will start through federalism. They give them power. They won't do anything. Through federalism will die. Is there any true federalism again in South-South? Nadeko came. Did not come. He produced a president. Any change? Is there any change? God bless you.
Thank you. Very short. He has thrown this to us that we need to do something. There has to be change. The whole essence of all this intervention is to have a positive change. And Mr. Chairman, that is put at your table. Chairman of Patriots, how we are going to navigate the change is now of high essence to the Chairman of Patriots and the Governor of Lagos State and the Senate that has given commitment. We'd like to thank you, Governor Rotimi Amechi. I bring the other statesman quickly before other former governors. I know Governor Kayode Fayemi is here. veteran on this matter. He started this process in 1999 with some of us. Elder Solomon Asemota to the podium for his intervention. SAN, one of the longest serving senior advocate of Nigeria, in Nigeria. Elder Solomon Asemota, SAN. A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful. And in particular to the governor of Lagos State, because I concur with what you say. I also concur with everything Atta had said. You know why? Because he's one of the older members of the Patriots. And what he said was exactly our viewpoint on the issue. But before then, I'd like to recommend to everybody that before we do anything, we need to interrogate 1914. Let's understand what exactly happened to us, why they took it, and my paper answers that. And after the interrogation, then we know how we're going to progress in the future. Was it a manipulation? Did the British shape us in such a way that we do not know what the whole situation is? I put all the points. And people talk about tradition and democracy. This has to be looked into. I believe that when we finish that, Mr. Chairman, then we will go to the governor and go to the lawmakers with a draft which they will approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elder Solomon Asemota, for being very brief. Round of applause for him. I just spoken with Chief Ayo-Adebanjo that maybe the last to speak, to round up. So we want Baba to rest a bit. But now, please permit me to quickly call to the podium Dr. Kayode Fayemi, who also is very profound on this matter and can give us another perspective. They started it with us, and I want to see what he's bringing to the table at this point. Governor Kayode, if I may, round of applause for him, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Your Excellency the Governor, our leaders who are here. I'm delighted to be part of this gathering in honor of our elder statesman, Professor Nwabueze. There's really very little to add to what we have had, and I would rather not waste time. We started this process as the Citizens Forum for Constitutional Reform in 1999. And I recall our first meeting in 99 where the then Attorney General, late Chief Ala-Igbo, came to speak with us. And the goal was to get to a referendum. And listening to my comrade brother, he used to be a comrade before. I don't know what he has become now. In his days of UDD, he was a comrade. But SAN sometimes play games with people. No, but seriously, he's still a comrade. And from what he has proposed to us, following on also from what we've heard from Governor Sanwo-Olu, from former Governor Atta, and my Vice Chair in the Governor's Forum, Senator Aminu Tambuwal, I think what we really should focus on is how do we build consensus in the National Assembly in order to achieve this goal of a National Referendum Commission. And how do we build consensus in response to what Governor Sanwo-Olu said about how things change when people transit from state to federal. It doesn't always happen that way, but there's a preponderance of opinion that it does happen. So the consensus we need to build is on the legislative side and is on the executive side. And the Patriot can take this as the leading proponent on this. And the rest of us who have been on this journey for as long as one can remember will join, sir, to work with you in order to achieve that consensus. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Kayode Fayemi. Another great commitment that those of us who have been on this journey will join Patriots to bring it to fruition. We thank you for that commitment and statement. I'd like to also quickly bring here another former governor of a great state in Nigeria. He has sent a paper in. He's also been a legislator before now, Governor Ibikule Hamosu. Governor Ibikule Hamosu, please. A round of applause, former governor of Ogun State. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, Wally. I'll be brief too. The governor, you are warmly welcome. The chairman of today's occasion, all our elders, let me use Baba Adebanjo as a point of reference. We have all been here. I mean, we are always saying the same thing now. And as the lawyers will say, and I'm sure they will say substance over form. We all agree on one thing, that our constitution is faulty. I don't want to say we don't have a constitution, but of course we can improve on it. I think what we should do, having had the opportunity of serving, having experience in both the legislative arm and the executive arm, I think what we should do now is to just carry what all of us has been saying. I will want to recommend and suggest that the Patriots as a group, all the outcome of this colloquium should be taken. Take it to the National Assembly. You invite the elders, go and meet the principal officers. Indeed, you can even meet all of them and let them know this is our advice. This is what we think is the way forward. And don't stop at that. Let's do the line of Governor Sanwo-Olu too. Take this in as well. You can seek an audience with Mr. President. You can even seek audience with all the bodies of the speakers in Nigeria. So let us take this in a way. We have been at this since 1950s. And all our leaders, our elders, some of them died fighting for this just cause. And that is why we all gathered here today to honor that erudite constitutional lawyer, Professor Wabese. Please, in their memory, and the memory of those giants that have fought, they keep fighting. Some of us are still around. Some of them are still around with us. I think we should just take those steps. And I'm sure that we will get there. The National Assembly has been there. We want this in fact, as you wanted it. So go and meet them, seek audience with them, seek audience with Mr. President, seek audience with all the various ethnic groups too. Let them know this is where we find ourselves. The next step is to just have, just like everybody is saying, a referendum commission. They will put it in place and we'll get to where we are going. On that note, thank you for inviting me once again.
Thank you very much, Senator Ibikule Hamosu, former governor of Ogun State. I will call another governor, though it was his predecessor, not now. I'm going to separate it a bit and then go to Cross River State. Okay, Cross River State is not intervening now. So I come to Osun, I come to our own comrade, the only Ogbeni in Yoruba land, at least the recognized one, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. A round of applause for him as he makes his intervention. I recognize those on the high table, and I must thank the organizers for inviting me. I subscribe to virtually everything said, but I have two motions to move. The first motion is about democratic representation. We have been talking about form of government, constitution. How do we elect people to the parliament? Yes, globally, what we have is what we do in Nigeria. But I see a fault. I see an error in it. People are elected based on residence. And the truth is, with modern life, we are disconnected. Yes, in the traditional society, residence could be a forum of relationship, of engagement. But in modern life, it is not. We are united more by production, through production. So in therefore seeking appropriate democratic representation, let us look at production as the basis of representation. That's my first submission. I'm not an expert in political science, but I've looked at it. Do we have the best form of representation? The answer is no. People are engaged more in production, in whatever form. Let us seek out to define a way of representation that will ensure that productive art, and those engaged in production in several forms and services are given opportunity to elect their best to represent them. That's my first submission. The second submission on this matter is simple. It's been said that it has not been put forcibly. What is it? It is, can Nigeria survive executive presidential system? My answer is capital no. Let us agree on parliamentary system. As to what form, we have different forms of parliamentary system. We have absolute parliamentary system of the British. We have the French parliamentary system, and we have the South African parliamentary system. Let us define which one we want to follow. The presidential system is a death knell for Nigeria. We cannot survive it. And on that note, once again, my greetings to the family of the professor we are here to commemorate and honor. And all the patriots, we thank you for your tenacity, for your perseverance, and for your doggedness. May God give you the enablement to take it to the final end before you all depart. Thank you. Everybody say amen to that. Thank you very much, Your Excellency of Beni Rauf Aregbesola. Yes, now I go back to Cross River State and I bring to the podium immediately Governor Donald Duke. Donald Duke is a member of the Patriots. For your information, a strong member of the Patriots. You are welcome to the microphone, Governor Duke.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been said here. I think it's procedurally that we should be looking at now and not essentially the substance, because there's a broad consensus on that. If I may, I think we ought to start with the president of this country. Realistically, the way we're structured in Nigeria, if you don't have the buy-in of the president, this will never work. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and this is where someone who I think was alluding that the transition from state to the national also has implications. When the president buys into it, I think he will call a meeting of the Council of States where the governors are fully represented and former presidents. And from there, instructions will be given to the Attorney General, who would then proceed to perhaps draft a bill for the National Assembly to assent to. So it's a procedural process that we should be talking about, because we already have a consensus on what we should do. But let me also go back to what Governor Amechi said. This whole constitutional thing is important, but you know, who we elect to govern. The constitution we have now, if we had the right people, it would work somewhat. It's not perfect, somewhat. And we will never get a perfect constitution. But the bigger problem we have are the characters we elect to operate the system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, because we have those characters because the Constitution itself allows it. And therefore the Constitution must be dealt with first. That's the foundation. For if the foundation be faulty, what can the righteous do? Thank you, Governor Donald Duke. Let me, at this point, I have been told that we have so many of our leaders of thought on Zoom, and they want to intervene. But I don't have their list. I know Professor Patriots told me is there. I know Akim Babu. Akim Baba Ahmed is there. I know Senator Enshaw and Haji Ablikisu Maguru. But then we still have in the house. No, we still have in the house eminent Nigerians who are going to intervene here, and I won't forget my own governor and a member of the core of our progressive movement under Chief Tony Enauru of blessed memory. He gave a standing instruction about him when he was about to go, that Otuba Gbenga Daniel is his home. So I want to do that now. I want to call on former governor of Ogun State, Otuba Gbenga Daniel, to make his intervention quickly. Otuba Gbenga Daniel, please. He is an Enauru child.
Our chairman, Your Excellency, elder statesmen, former governors, very eminent personalities, the time is fast spent, therefore I will not waste time. But the first thing I want to do is to commend the governor of Lagos State, because for those of us who knows what he has just said and in the implication, it's a heavy statement. I'm coming from Anando. If you know that in the last God knows how many years, I've had the privilege of interacting with many of the people who have had cause to superintend over this country. And like somebody said, many of them, prior to getting to power, say the right things. And you think that when and if they get there, things will happen. But somehow, those appear that there is something in that Aso Rock. Probably because they feel that, how can I sit over this and dismantle it? So this actually had been our greatest challenge. And that is why I'm especially commending the governor for being bold. Without any doubt from what the others have said, if we can get the buy-in of the president, we have learned something, and definitely with my brother, the former governor of Sokoto and former speaker, now senator, that we can go and actually enact a law. And if we enact that law, then possibly, in my own opinion, I'm not even aware of what we want to say that has not been said in 2014. If we go enact a law and actually ask that the process of 2014 be activated, then we have a new constitution without wasting money, effort, and time. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Otuba Gbenga Daniel, for that quick intervention. I have a list here, because we will waste time. The governor is here seated, and he said there could not be any other state function than this. I took that this is the most fundamental state function, because this is the foundation of the country. And well, I've just been informed that I have to take Governor James Ibori quickly before coming to Akim Baba Ahmed, Professor Patriots, General Kewan Chukwuach, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, Chief James Ibori, please. What's that title? You are welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. The chairman of this occasion, Your Excellency, the Governor of Lagos, and my younger brother, distinguished former governors, ladies and gentlemen. A lot has been said. All I have to say now is put life to what my former colleagues have said. And that is, there's no way you can progress this discussion without the buy-in of a sitting president. Let me not say the sitting president, a sitting president. And some of you know that at least I have the experience, having been governor of Delta for 8 years, and I having myself advocated for true federalism and resource control in conjunction with Obongata and my colleagues in the South-South, I can tell you that on 2 occasions, I sat with the president that we sat with on this matter. And on the 2 occasions, he was not convinced that we had a very bad structure. So the first thing to do is to ask the governor of Lagos to take a few members of the Patriots to sit quietly with the president so we can get his buy-in, convince him. I know from my experience when we were advocating for true federalism and resource control, and with due respect to all my other colleagues, the governor of Lagos then, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the only Southwest governor that joined us in that advocacy. So it doesn't need much convincing. The question will be, now that he's sitting there, like my brother Ben said, will he begin to contemplate, am I going to preside over the dismemberment of Nigeria? Because the question is, it's not about dismemberment, it's about the correction of the anomaly called the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because indeed it's not federal by any means. So please, let us take that first step to have it. And I must disclose that I've also raised it with him. In the 9 months he's been in office or so, I have had the opportunity to raise it with him. Governor of Lagos, lead us to the president. Before I take my seat, I want to correct this impression from our southern brothers that our northern politicians are the problem. It is not true. There are so many federalists in northern Nigeria who are practicing politicians. I'm sure you've listened to, you just heard former governor of Sokoto State, Tambora, speak. There are a few of them who are liberal, who have the belief that Nigeria will work better if we have a perfect, or near perfect federal structure. So we also need to go to them and convince them that their states, their various states, will do better in a proper federal structure. So let's not begin to paint all of them with one brush. We need to engage them closely, make them know. Let me tell you a story. When we were doing the advocacy, I used to have one of my leaders, he's dead now, I'm so rest in peace, Dr. Ala-Igbo, who told me a story that he used to serve in Sokoto, in NTC, I believe. And when he was transferred to Lagos, he would send for rice from Sokoto, put it on the train, and the rice would come all the way to Udo. He drives to Udo to pick it up. What was he saying? That the states themselves can do well and do better if there's competition. Because a true federal structure actually encourages competition among states. And there are so many of our brothers in the north who will buy into that idea. So we do not have to write them off. We need to engage them and engage the president and the sitting governors. Some of the sitting governors today, we also need to be convinced that this is an idea whose time has come and must be done. I thank you, Dr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency James Sibori from Delta State. A round of applause for him, please. He said we will have to get the buy-in of the sitting president, who do not really need so much of convincing. That is the point he has made. And I know our chairman is up to that task, to get the buy-in, because the Nigerian president is too powerful, almost like a god if you look at the constitution. But that is a matter for another day. We have on Zoom Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, who is the political advisor to the president on political matters. I don't know if he wants to intervene now, to show you that we are also reaching out. It's an inclusive process. But before I do that, I want to call another elder statesman, Chief Olabode George, to the podium. Chief Olabode George, to make his intervention. Chief Olabode George is a senior delegate of the 2014 National Confab that we are commemorating the 10th years today. The National Confab 2014 was inaugurated by President Goodluck Jonathan on 17 March 2014, and today is 18th March 2024, making it 10 years. So here we bring a delegate of that National Confab, in which I was also a delegate, to the podium. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the coordinating table, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to see a congregation like this discussing the way forward for our nation. Since 2014, when we were at the confab, I was so glad to have been a member and listened very attentively to all the discussions. Now, 2014, we are now in 2024. I want to plead, because I've listened to many of the speakers here, and something was rolling in my mind, because they said the truth to power. This system we are running is not working. Yes, I came from the military background, and I'll tell you the story today, because I have been in the military, had a non-regimental appointment, and now came out to be a politician. Don't blame all these issues on the military, because they also are Nigerians. I will plead, apart from convincing the current president that it is time to change our direction. If we don't, we take one step ahead and 10 steps backwards. Why? You don't need to be a highfalutin gentleman for you to have been educated today here of all issues. I'm not a lawyer, but listening to people, I want to plead with Baba, who is also my in-law, that Chief Ayoko. So whatever it takes. Since Governor of Lagos, for the first time since he's been governor, won my heart today. Because he said the truth to power. Because someday he will leave. What would you say to the people after leaving? Sir, the coordination, the reports, the discussions, not only should it be for the press, those who have contacts with the president, let them go. Call Akpabio, Senate President, sit him down. He will listen. Because someday, in any public appointment, as you have a date of entry, you will have a date of exit. It is only when you do what you do while in office that will live after you. Nigerians are crying. Sir, I had delegations from the north, Northern Youth Council. They came to my office in Lagos and said, sir, we want to see you. All these are the issues raised by these young men. And their leaders said, now we are educated. We are back home. There is no job. They can eat, and they are back to the huts left by their fathers. And I looked at them and said, wow. So they asked me, do something for us, sir. And they turbaned me. So the issue is not only south or north. What about this kidnapping? The insecurity in the nation today. I'm almost 80 now, sir, and I cannot say this nation has given me the fulfillment as a citizen. Please, the managers, whatever you want us to do, to add value to it, sir, we will do. It is important, it is very important, especially to the younger generations that are coming. Let us help them. I had written a big paper. I will hand it over to Professor Kila or you on my thoughts. I don't have to come here and repeat most of the things people have said. But whatever it is you want us to do, I will be available. Once again, I congratulate the organizers, and I want to remember Professor Nwabweze, an icon, a man that under any condition, he will stand up, he will tell the truth, he will tell exactly what is in his mind. So today is a day to thank God for his life, and that since his children are also here and his wife, may the angels of heaven sing him to his final resting place. Once again, I thank you, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful day, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegates of the 2014 National Confab, Chief Olabode George. I quickly want to ask delegates of that confab who are in here to stand up for recognition. Delegate 2014, please stand up for recognition. Those who are delegates of the 2014 National Confab here. A round of applause for them, please. A round of applause. Okay. Yes, you have your time to intervene. But quickly, let me call on. Yes, I hear that Dr. Obi is on the Zoom. Professor Patu Tomi is on the Zoom. Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed on the Zoom. And then Ajia Biliki Sumagoro. But I quickly want to take General Ike Wachukwu's intervention. General Ike Wachukwu is a founding member of the Patriots, and he will be having his intervention now. General Ike, a round of applause for him, please.
Our Chairman, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our country needs a new constitution. That appears to be a consensus here. How to go about it? We've been told also. What we need to do now is carry on and have it happen. I'm a simple infantry general. We run a military government. or military era. We set in motion policies and laws we believe will make the country a better country. We handed a 1999 Constitution to our people. Today, it is absolutely clear that it's not working for the good of Nigeria. Therefore, I hear you all saying here, set that aside, correct the mistakes, and move our country forward. Our governor in Lagos State has given his commitment to join in this procedure. And I believe our president, who himself is the fighter for democracy, I recall way back then when he and a few others were forced out of this country in exile. They returned in 1999, became governor of Lagos State, and continued the fight for deregulation, more powers to the states, autonomy, and so on. Now, as president of Nigeria, we need to aid him to join in that change. Reason why? He swore May 29 to defend this constitution. But so the way to give him the pardon to begin to change that is for the National Assembly, that is the people's authority to rule Nigeria, to pass that law into which he will sign onto, and giving him that support, I believe the president will join in making this change. Lastly, no state in Nigeria, I repeat, no state in Nigeria is insolvent. I hear some economists say so, and I say to them, why are you saying this kind of thing? Every state in this country is viable. But I don't expect a civil servant in Kano that has more money than Abia State to earn the same salary. Abia State should develop based on what they have, as Kano would do it. So Lagos State would develop at our own space. And somebody in Jigawa State would earn less, but they will run their services, based on the revenues available to them. That's the way to run a federation. And the federal government would then support states that I need, either in loan or in grant, to do what they have to do. But we need to decentralize, give the states more authority, and have our zones, all states, as a federating unit. Lastly, I want to beg of you to rise with me, to remember the founding members of this Patriot, Chief F.R.A. Williams, Chief Abraham Adesanya, Chief Ala-Igbo, Dr. Pius Okibo, Professor Joy Ruku, Alhaji Ganiu Daudu. Please ride with me and remember them, because without their thoughts and their vision, we won't be talking as Patriots. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Kiwashuku, Your Excellency, for the honor done to the founding members of the Patriots. I'd like to quickly recognize Dr. Yemi Ogunbiyi, a round of applause for him. Honorable Shegun Sholu, all the way from Ogun State, a round of applause for him. Akobu Kola Omodipe, a round of applause too. And now I want to take the microphone quickly to our leader, the leader of the Yorubas. That's how we call it. When you are a very leader, we say you are the leader of Yorubas. We have no apology for that. We don't have, because that is the ground norm. So I like to take the microphone to the leader of our Ferry, a veteran, an Awoist, an action group champion, Chief Ayo Adebanjo. A round of applause for him, Chief Adebanjo.
That you should sit down.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished Nigerians, great patrons of this country, lovers of progress, lovers of democracy, who are present to honor a man to whom honor is due. Before I make my speech, I want to say one or two things about Professor Nwabueze. It's the greatest gift to Nigeria that we sell abroad proudly. A greatest gift to Africa, a greatest gift to the democratic world in the constitutional making of democratic democracy. It's not too young to die, but it's too good to be missed. Anyway, Mrs. Nwabueze, take consolation in the fact that you are not only mourning a great man, the whole country is mourning with you. We are not mourning, we are celebrating a great man who left the fullness of time. May his soul rest in peace. Now, to the intervention. He says, come here, he has gone. As a colleague, I would have said, I adopt your paper. But there are one or two things I want to underline which I don't agree with you. I agree principally because time is gone. If you are sincere to move forward, to change the constitution now, and not tell me that it to 2050 or something. Tell the 2014 Constitutional Conference. Get one or two people to update it. You can't get a better representation of this country other than those who are at the 2014 National Conference. And I've challenged this properly on several occasions to say there can be a better representation of this country other than the representation put up by Jonathan in the 2040 Constitution. The judiciary was there, and as, of course, as the second one mentioned, no aspect of the country that was not there. And what is significant that many people don't know, the Constitution of Nigeria all over the years were brought before the conference and set up its committees to reconcile and to get the best. That's number one. Now, as the comment says, federalism is the best thing because of what I don't know what I did. My sympathy for those who are just talking or who don't understand why many of us say, go back to 1963 Constitution, go back to Independence Constitution. What led to what? The colonial office gave us a unity form of government with a lot of iniquities and injustice in favor of the North against the South. That is what many of you have been shining, you are fighting, shining off. That is the position. It is they who said they are more than the South. It is they who did all sorts of things. But when the Constitution of 1954 was confirmed in London Conference, all these things were ironed out. Before then, all the proceedings and revenue of the South were used to maintain the North. But she will not fought it out. The question of what you call the resource control now was revenue under derivation. She found out proof that every state
or every region should keep its revenue and just give a percentage to the north. Before then was not true. And before then, there was no premiership or federalship. We had only a leader of government business. So by the time they went to London Constitutional Conference and came back after the legitimacy constitution, federalism was established to remove all the iniquities of the colonialism, which always pointed out that in a rural society in Nigeria, you cannot rule out under a unity form of government. And that was accepted. By so doing, they go back to derivation, and it's that derivation that gave the North what it is entitled to under Granite, that gave the Southwest what it is entitled to under cocoa, that gave the Southeast what it is entitled to under palm kernel. By so doing, a lot of money went to where it should go. But when the military came in 1966, they abolished all this. And all these things that have been causing conflict, that have been removed under the Macpherson Constitution, were restored and were loaded against the South in favor of the North. That is what many of you have been fighting shy to talk about. Particularly those who are afraid under this presidential constitution, which is dictatorial. And I don't agree with Zekoma. Go to the National Assembly. National Assembly is a product of the fraud of the constitution. It is the military that created it. It is the military that created all the states of the federation without any yardstick. Created more in the north, less in the south. Created states more in the north, more in the south. These are all what we went to in 2014 National Constitution. How can you say we want to amend the constitution? We have all agreed that it's a fraud. We have all agreed that it's not working. We have all agreed that it's against us. We have all agreed that makes state governors, left governors. I'm asking someone who is here. I pity him the day he went to the place where there was a dispute between the North. And there was a dispute there. He told the police, I am the governor. He said, yes. You are here, say to Mr. Governor. Say yes. On behalf of him and the governor. That is the constitution we want to remove now. It is the constitution that makes Lagos to contribute the best in Nigeria and get the least. We are fighting shy of that. And I warn you, there is no precedent under this constitution. See the dictatorial powers under it that we like to change it. Not even Bola Tinubu. Bola Tinubu was with us when we were in the trenches. And my position in opposition to the assembly is consistent with the position of our federal issue in 1999. When Saddam said we should come and do the election, FNFL said no. If the military is going back to the barracks, let them go back with their baggage of the constitution. Return us back to the constitution, or we have a sovereign national conference. It's on record. He said we should take part in the FNFL said no, we are not going to. And Salam said, well, if you are going to do your democracy, have your government first. And in fact, the government of that day didn't recognize Alliance for Democracy. It was Salam that told them that you want to do an election without the Yorubas, you are joking. It was them who forced them to put Alliance for Democracy. And Alliance for Democracy then contested that election on protest. must be a sovereign national conference before the election, because this constitution is a fraud. So we contested that election and won the mandate of the people of Western region, and told our governors then not to have anything to do with Abuja until the sovereign national conference convened. At that time, sovereign national conference was misconstrued even by Obasanjo. He said the law is an obligation only to one sovereignty. I said no. The sovereign national conference we are asking for is for the sovereignty of that. The constitution we made there is sovereign, not subject to any amendment by the military subtraction or obstruction. That is where we are today. So we are still there. Anything to recognize that fraud in changing, and we expect to change our constitution by a constitution we did not make. How is that consistent? They say, come on, you are a good lawyer. I don't understand. That what confused me. You agree that these people will impose this constitution, and they are using provision of that constitution to amend the constitution you don't know about. I don't agree.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
In summary, as I said, if we are serious about changing this constitution now for the betterment of the country, I don't know if Fiscal has said, take 2040 template and let Tinubu has the best advantage. He was in the trenches with us to set up a committee to work on it within 3 months and give us a new constitution, and we move forward.
Thank you very much, Chief Ala-Igbo, the leader of Afenifere. Well, we'd like to thank the Central News Africa for giving us live coverage. As we are here, we are having live coverage, so we thank you, News Central Africa. We thank you, thank you very much. Let me also inform you that we have lunch for participants at the end of this event. I'd like to recognize Fafa Dampriswin. You are welcome all the way from Rivers State. Thank you for coming. Yes, we have Professor Otomi waiting on Zoom, Dr. Obieze Kwesili. But let me call on Professor Uwaya to make intervention in 1 minute. Then Alhaji Shetima Yerima, all the way from the north, the leader of Arewa Youth. Yes, Shetima first, before the elder. Yes, Shetima Yerima, all the way from the north. That's the leader of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum. Arewa Youth Consultative Forum. Please come and make your intervention. The chairman says 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Alhaji Shetima Yerima. Before I call on Professor Ayawa. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Governor of Lagos State, former governors, leaders here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I sometimes get worried when the North, with all due respect to our elder, a father, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, whom I will call our mentor because we work closely with him from the dark days, subsequently to a day like this. I get worried when leaders we are looking up to look at the entire North and cast aspersion on them. I get worried. Because the truth of the matter is that we are more victim of this system than some of you in the southern part of this country. But yet, if an issue of this nature comes up, the entire North will be looked and be cast aspersion on, and this is not right. Some of us grew in your mix. Some of us were your students. You mentored us. We're part of the struggle. We are product of struggles. So when you don't consider looking at people like us and you cast aspersion, to an extent you are saying we are stupid and fools. That's what we feel. It's not expected. We are all victims. I have always been an advocate of this struggle. I have always been an advocate of total decentralization of this system. We cannot get it right if we continue to manage the center as it is today. So I am one of those who believe strongly that we need to decentralize the central government to make the center less attractive. So for over 2 decades we will be in this struggle. So I am of the view, or my advice is that sometimes if leaders want to talk, let them specifically make mention of individuals who have bastardized the systems rather than generalizing it. We don't belong and we can't take that responsibility. Great Nigerian people. I am of the view that something is wrong and I believe in it. We cannot manage this constitution. And the other problem also I have with our senior comrade, Mike Ezokume, I've known that for over time we've always been advocating for how do we re-engineer a process of a new constitution, which I was a youth director in Pronaco under Chief Anthony Naura and Life Evolution, blessed memory of Beko Ramson Kuti. We came up with a draft constitution. And at that time, we make it very clear that we cannot continue to manage this document that's been foisted on us. Abdulsalam Abubakar does not represent the North. That's the truth of it. That document was foisted on us, and as Nigerians will say, no, you can't foist it, because even when I'm not a lawyer, I know there's a difference between a legal document and a document that has legitimacy. The 1999 Constitution does not have legitimacy. Great Nigerian people. So I rest my case at this point. Baba, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Shetima Yerima, the leader of the Hariwa Youth Consultative Forum. Now, we want to quickly take the elder, Professor Aya O. Anya, to make his intervention in 3 minutes again. I recognize the Yaludi Agbekoya. A round of applause for Yaludi Agbekoya. That's Yaludi Agbekoya. And all the women in the house. Professor Aya, please.
Thank you. Chief Anyoko, for those of us who have been involved in this struggle over the last 30 years in this country, we will say that you will be considered a fortunate person, that you got all these people, and things that we have found difficult to agree to, we have got the consensus there. So we thank God, and we hope we'll work from there. But there is one little thing I need to point out. The National Conference was possible because there was the Okurumu Committee. I was a member. Solomon Asemota was a member. We laid the foundations on how the conference can be run, different from the ones that have gone before. And I think we ought to give that credit. Finally, I need to say, there's a whole lot of background to why the National Conference succeeded. And we need to download some of that. I'm available to work with whichever the Patriots set up, work actively, so that that which is necessary in our country, we can get the kind of country that you and me deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Aya O. Aya. I must also announce that distinguished Senator Ben Obi, is a senior member of the Patriots, is also on Zoom. Well, can we have Mr. Chairman, sir? No, okay, Mr. Chairman has overruled that it may not be appropriate at this point to take intervention from the Zoom. Therefore, we take 2 more persons from the floor. The lady from National Confab, Chief Ifeyiwa, should please step forward so that we can have a female voice. Have the female voice to this 2014 National Confab delegate, I see Mr. Shegun Show raising his hand. I will later have to hand over to Professor Kila to help us with moderation of this program. So please quickly come. Madam Ifeyiwa Ezenwa of the 2014 National Conference.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to ask a question, and I would like Addendum to please answer me. There was a draft that was, I think, during the National Conference 2014. There was a draft, constitutional draft, that was brought to the table, I remembered, and they talked about it. I was even thinking that draft will be discussed here, because we have the document. I represented the market structure, Yaloja of Southeast. I am the Rich Mama Market, which is our president, Felicia Asani, was our national president. I think that draft should be looked into. Let us even know what, because I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a representative. I want you to answer this question. Tell us what is that draft is all about, and what can we achieve? Because in as much as we are talking about going to National Assembly or whatever, we have a document already with us. Can we deliberate on it and make it work? Thank you very much.
Yes. Chief Mike Ozekomen, Professor Mike Ozekomen, please to come and answer that question quickly. In 2 minutes. That's the keynote speaker.
Thank you very much. She was there, very much there, very active under the auspices of Mama Market, Chief Mrs. Sani. I'm her son, very close to her. Yes, like I said earlier, I actually headed the subcommittee on the ways and means of achieving the results of the 2014 National Conference. So I'm privy to all that happened. In fact, I've written a book on the conference itself. I called it Nigeria. I titled it Nigeria We Hail Thee. The entire conference report, those that were made for constitutionalism, were adequately captured, and we even had a draft of a constitution which was submitted to the then president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, by the time we finished about July 2014. But of course, it was very close to the elections. And I remember it was then presented to the National Assembly. So my own answer to that, therefore, is that that document, rather than start afresh altogether, we have a document that is ready, that the National Assembly can now promulgate a law, which I had already mentioned, to set up a National Referendum Commission, NRC, which will now look at that draft of 2014, marry it with the beautiful sections of the 1963 Republican Constitution, and then whatever beautiful suggestions the National Assembly has now in their current constitutional amendment deliberations. And then we can have a new constitution. That was why I said this thing cannot be more than maximum 6 months. We need it with the urgency of yesterday. Subject it to a national referendum, the details of which the national commission, that is National Referendum Commission, will give to us. How do we go about it? What are the details of having this referendum? It's so simple. It's not rocket science. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now we have to quickly take the vote of thanks. Vote of thanks now to, pardon? Yes, the chairman says that Zoom may not be convenient, and so we want to take their they can take their written intervention from the Zoom, or they can send in a paper. But let me, the family of Nwabueze, Nene Okosa, will be giving the vote of thanks on behalf of the family. I recognize Honorable Nikki Kazim from Ogun State. You are welcome. Nene Okosa, the daughter of Professor Ben Nwabueze, would have liked to take Honorable Shegun Solmi, but Mr. Chairman is asking us to round up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. My chairman, members of the coordinating table, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nene. I'm a pharmacist by training. I'm my father's 6th child. I also have my sister, Adeze, is here, and my stepmother is also here with me. My dad only unfinished work, which consumed his time, thoughts, energy over the past several years, is the transformation of Nigeria under a new and restructured constitution. As a prominent member of the 1976 Constitution Drafting Committee and subsequent Constitution Assembly, Daddy acknowledged that the committee erred in giving the center too much power in their search for unity. The operators of the Constitution, in the quest to control the center with so much power, created so much disunity. Daddy firmly believed that Nigeria will continue to exist as a viable nation on the basis of restructured constitution, true federalism, and respect for the objectives and interests of Nigeria's varied people. As we can see in all our discussions here, what Daddy believed in is still what we are standing and discussing here, which I emphasize again that he believed on true federalism, respect for objectives and interests of the Nigeria's varied people, and on the basis of restructured constitution. Based on this, I want to, on behalf of my family and myself, I extend my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for gracing us with a presence, your presence at today's colloquy, organized in honor of my father. Your presence has made this event truly special and memorable. I would like to express also my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers, our national leaders of thoughts, to our governors, former and the existing ones. Of course, I won't forget to our governor of Lagos State, that's our host governor, and to everybody for sharing their expertise, insight, and enlightening us with valuable knowledge and perspectives. I also want to extend my appreciation to all the attendees. All the attendees here, please, I extend my appreciation. Those who actively participated in the discussion, contributing to the richness of the dialogue and fostering intellectual exchange. My very special thanks goes to the organizing committee, the Patriots, currently led by Chief Emeka Anyoko, the former Secretary General of Commonwealth, in planning and executing this event flawlessly. Thank you very much, Daddy, for planning this. I call him Daddy. Since I lost my father, I actually refer to him as my father. Yeah. Last but not the least, I want to express my profound gratitude to my dad for his dedication, for his hard work and passion in his field, which has inspired us all. Dad, your accomplishments are a testament to your unwavering commitment to excellence. Once again, thank you all for being part of this momentous occasion. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. Round of applause. The daughter of Professor Ben Nwabweze, Nene, the mother of Prof. Nwabweze. Thank you. Well, we'd like to thank all the leaders on Zoom. Professor Obtomi, we thank you. Senator Ben Obi, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed. Now I go to the chairman. The chairman closing remarks. Should I come to you, Mr. Chairman? Can we be seated, please? Can we be seated?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats so that we can close the colloquium in a respectable manner. Well, my first words would be to join Nene Nwabweze Chukura in thanking you all for coming. I believe that the message from this colloquium is quite clear. The consensus of opinion is quite clear that the country needs a new legitimate constitution. And the message to the Patriots, whom I have the privilege to be the chairman, is quite clear that the Patriots should take this message to those that govern us. And I'd like to say that the Patriots will take this message to the presidency and to the National Assembly. We will, after this colloquium, do the message in the form of a communique from this colloquium, and will actively convey that to the presidency and the National Assembly. I'd like to say that I am hopeful, to put it most mildly. I am hopeful that we will have a listening ear in the presidency. And why do I say so? I say so because I believe that we are fortunate at this time to have a president whose democratic credentials have been very clear to me over the years. Because the man who is now our president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was very active in the NADECO days. And in the NADECO days, he was one of those NADECO representatives who visited my residence in London a number of times. And I remember how vigorously he argued the NADECO cause, and how vigorously he was
a Democrat. And not all. Wouldn't stop at that, because years later, after I had retired as Commonwealth Secretary General, I had the privilege of chairing a colloquium organized to mark his 60th birthday. And at that colloquium, where he and many of his friends and associates were seated, I, as chairman, called for the restructuring of Nigeria. I said then, and I have since been saying it a number of times, that from my close association with the governments of the 54 member countries of the Commonwealth, one lesson I learned was what I said in my opening remarks here today, that pluralistic countries such as Nigeria succeed only on the basis of true federalism. We have had pluralistic countries that failed. Yugoslavia, for example, broke up into 8 states. Czechoslovakia amicably broke up into 2 states. And coming nearer home here, Sudan, which had existed for centuries, broke up into 2 states. So that lesson should teach us that in Nigeria, we should deliberately manage our diversity. And the only way that we can successfully manage our diversity, to remain as one political entity, is by adopting a true federalist constitution. That lesson is gravely imprinted on my mind, and I will keep saying it. Ala-Igbo described to us as being truly representative of this country. I think that the recommendations of that national conference, which both Professor Anya and the Arewa representative here told us, form the basis of a document that sought to reconcile those recommendations with the existing constitution. I think that it would be useful to find that document and use it as a basis for producing a new constitution, which as our keynote speaker pointed out and made the point, when the National Assembly is asked to pass a simple resolution establishing a national referendum commission, we can then put the result of that reconciliation to a national referendum. I would imagine, and that's where I would seek further clarification from our keynote speaker, the National Referendum Commission should not have anything to do with drafting the document, but the document will be drafted on the basis of the National Conference of 2014, and the responsibility of the National Referendum Commission would be to organize, in collaboration possibly with INEC, the actual referendum, so that at the end of the day, the Constitution, if it's adopted by majority votes in a national referendum, can be more truthfully be described as we, the people of Nigeria, have agreed this Constitution. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with the assurance that the Patriots will take this matter forward. We, fortunately, in the Patriots, have a veteran secretary, Chief Wale Okuni, who's been part of these efforts to make Nigeria's constitution for quite some time, and was a delegate to the National Conference of 2014. So finally, I'd like again to thank you, our keynote speaker, for the thoughts that you have given us, and to thank all of you, especially my colleagues in the Patriots, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, General Ike Wachuku, Professor Anya, and I see the others sitting there. I want to thank you all for coming and joining in making this colloquium the success that it has clearly been. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you sit down, there's a presentation of the confab report to you. I call on Professor Anya, who is to present it to you formally, photographers. And please, can we take this part of it? The document is so bulky, I can't even carry it as strong as I am. So Professor Anya, the presentation. So it's one document. This is the conference report, 2014 National Confab, being presented to the chairman of the Patriots today after 10 years for the Patriots to take forward the resolution of that confab into the future. Thank you very much. The presentation has been made. The chairman has received that, and here we are winding down with a closing prayer. Can we have Mr. Salvation Ala-Igbo to give us the closing prayer.
Father, we thank you for such a successful colloquium.
We pray for the family of Professor Ben Nwabueze, that you give them the grace to continue to honor his memory. And we pray that the discourse in today's event will lead to a better and greater country for us all. Let the fruits of this conversation be seen in no distant time. In Jesus' name we pray.